it just says, boom. Well, that's what you have here in all the checkering and the engraving.
Okay.
And a standard Springfield is just a blued and case-colored rifle, you know, but an officer's rifle, it's got sex.
Then sex sells.
Sex sells. So you got to say that, okay?
5 minutes later.
Hey, welcome back to Historic Investments. Today we're at the November Ohio Gun Collectors Association, and I'm very pleased to have with me Jack Lewis. He's one of the most preeminent and knowledgeable authorities on Springfield rifles.
And would I be right to suspect that that is a Springfield trapdoor rifle that you got tied up there too?
It's not just Springfield rifles we're talking about. We're talking about the officer's model Springfield rifles. So Jack, why don't you weigh in on what we're going to focus on today?
We're going to focus on the U.S. model 1875 officer's model Springfield. How the Army decided to make it an initial arm that was uniform that all officers could purchase. Prior to that, officers would write the Chief of Ordnance asking for a rifle with fine sights, a special stock, set trigger mechanisms, all types of different features. And so after a while, after they had made 122 of these rifles, they decided it was time to standardize the rifle and make it uniform to be for officers to purchase.
So that's just really a fantastic package. Yes. So a number of them are available, and let's take a look at the features and so you can have a better idea of what you should look for when it's time to add one to your own collection.
In 1866, officers would write letters to the Chief of Ordnance office and order special-made Springfield rifles. Started with probably the first model there were 266 sporting rifles made. Then they went to the 68 sporting rifle, 69 cadet, and then it went into the 70 rifle, of which they made some sporting rifles. In 1875, this particular rifle was built for a Lieutenant Rockwell, who was an ordnance officer. He was very close friends to another lieutenant whose name was Henry Metcalf. He designed this attachment and this packet of cartridges, which would fit in here. It gave a person 8 shots to pull out and stick into the chamber and fire it. He could carry 8 extra rounds. The uniqueness of this particular rifle is that it is fine-sighted, has the Metcalf attachment, single set trigger, cadet butt, carbine stock, extra finished or extra oil finished wood. This particular rifle was built for Rockwell and delivered to him in April of 1875. Rockwell was the person who secured contracts for the person who would do the engraving, the stocks, and let a tip for a second for the officer's rifle, which actually became known as the U.S. model of 1875. This is a narrow receiver gun. The receivers on trapdoors changed at about 90,000. They went wider. This is a narrow receiver, square-shouldered, high-arch breech block. In this session, we're going to talk about the Model 1875 officer's rifle. This is basically a Type 2, and it's only a Type 2 because of the rear base sight is rounded in the front and the back. Springfield Arsenal ordered 75 of these sights, like this one, from Sharp's Rifle Company. When they ran out of those and putting them on sporting rifles, then the Bull brothers began the manufacturing of the sights at Springfield. This is one of the first ones that Freeman R. Bull had machined and put onto a rifle. So this is actually, a lot of people will refer to this as a Type 1, but it's actually going to be called a Type 2. And a Type 2 because of the corners of the base of the sight are rounded and not squared. The engraving on these rifles were done by F.W. Martin. The stocks were done at Springfield. They were checkered and inletted. And the ramrods were made at Springfield. The entire rifles were built at Springfield. I've not found whether Martin was a employee of Springfield Arsenal or he was outside contractor that had his own engraving shop in Springfield, Mass. And he did a lot of work for Smith & Wesson as well, so obviously he probably was an outside contractor. And, but he did engrave all of the officers' rifles. There were 477 total officers' models manufactured at Springfield Arsenal. 317 were purchased by officers. And there is a registry in the Trapdoor book that Al Frasca wrote, and you can look in there and see the rifles that they ordered and then purchased from Springfield. But in front of us is an 1875 Type 2, and just a nice rifle. This is an original Metcalf cartridge block. It is sealed. It had a string that you would pull around like this, pull the lid up and over, and you have 8 inside prime 4570 cartridges made at Frankfurt Arsenal. This particular packet is dated January of 1876. On the back is the brackets that would fit in here. It goes in there, this lifts up, comes down and locks on it and holds it in place. This is how you install the block. The clip fits in. It is milled internally here so it'll slide in and stay. Then you bring it down to its locks and then it locks in place.
And
Squared base, rounded base.
got it. Okay, perfect.
And the sight is very similar, except for the spring is more flat and square, where this one kind of tapers in. It's Sharp's built.
Okay.
Okay.
Good.
Then another unique thing about officers' models is they're never cartouched, but they are fireproofed. When they fired them, they fireproofed them, or test fired them. On top of the breech blocks are marked Model 1873, Eagle, crossed arrows in US on both guns. This is a water quench block. This is an oil quench block. That is why you have the bluish color, and here you have the rainbow colors.
Okay, guys, thanks again for tuning in. Jack, we really appreciate your coming and talking to us about these Springfield rifles.
Well, one of the great things about the officer's rifle is it's probably one of the most sexiest rifles that Springfield ever built.
And we all know that sex sells. So guys, listen, good luck, good collecting.